When you want your spring break to feel like... and your kids' pool day to feel like... and your hotel bed to feel like... ooh, and room service to feel like... because at Hilton, hospitality feels like...
Your cabana's ready. Would you like fresh towels?
It matters where you stay. Book now at Hilton.com. Hilton, for the stay.
AI is incredible. It can teach you how to fry an egg and even write a poem, pirate style. Yarr! But it knows nothing about your work. Slackbot is different. It doesn't just know the facts. It knows your schedule. It can turn a brainstorm into a brief. And it doesn't need to be taught. Because Slackbot isn't just another AI. It's AI that knows your work as well as you do. Visit slack.com/meet Slackbot to learn more.
Good morning, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Financial Freedom Podcast. I'm extremely delighted about today's guest, Dylan Bost. He is actually a nomad. He is going to talk to us all about the founding Sunny HQ, which is the human first WordPress hosting and support. Really happy to have him on and talk about entrepreneurship and specifically human first WordPress hosting. So Dylan, welcome.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, and briefly introduce yourself, and I'm excited to dive into the questions.
Yeah, again, Dylan Bost, and I run a company. Actually, a couple things I'm working on, but the main company I've been running for the last 8 years is called Sunny HQ. We manage WordPress hosting at a really high level. It's my second endeavor into starting businesses. The first was I ran a marketing, design, and branding agency for about 10 years, and I learned a lot from that. And unfortunately, fortunately and unfortunately, that ended bad. I burned out really emotionally and mentally from that entire situation. But I really turned that experience into something different as I started this new company with a lot more consciousness and caring for a good balance between my personal life and business life. And I started a business where I believe all of our staff feels the same way, just happy to be there every day. And we love the service that we provide, but also it's started a new business this year, or last year rather, and I'm writing a book. So I'm about to publish that in the spring.
Excellent. And so the question I have for you is, what's interesting is you have how exactly does you offer value to your clients when you say human first WordPress hosting and support? What do people come to you for when they work with you?
Yeah, it's interesting. So the world of hosting, I think a lot of your listeners maybe have played in this realm some, is that you have this wonderful asset, this website, and of course, it needs to live someplace, and you don't want to host it yourself. You can, but you have a lot of options out there. And actually, when I was running the agency, we started hosting. It's where the idea came from, but we started hosting we would build a website. And then the next question is, where does it live? And at the time in the early 2000s, there weren't the offerings that there are today, although it's still no less confusing, but all of them amounted to super high-end technical companies. And that still is present today. So when I looked at what I wanted in a new business, I looked at this gap in the marketplace, and that is, here's the situation. You have a business owner that runs, maybe they sell hardware, or they're a yoga studio, or they're a lawyer, a doctor, or they sell surfaces like Corian, or really all of those businesses have the same paradigm, right? They're running a business in which they're offering a service, and those services are not hosting, right? Those are not websites. And so the language they speak is business. And the language that all of the hosts out there speak is super technical. So before I did what I do now, and before I ran that agency, I was that person. And I recognized right away, okay, I've got these questions like, my website's down, what do I do? I can't make this work. This form doesn't submit to where it needs to go. I don't know, and actually I don't care what the problem is. I just want someone to fix it. So what typically happens then, if you're that person, right, you submit a ticket to one of these guys and you wait, and keep in mind, usually it's urgent, right? It might be something like a form doesn't work, but that's holding up sales, or maybe, God forbid, your checkout page doesn't work. It's holding up either people contacting you. In some ways, it's holding up your business. So your stress level begins to get higher and higher. And then what typically happens is you submit that request, and what you get back is, tell me exactly what's wrong. And that's the first problem, right? You don't know what's wrong because you run a yoga studio, right? You don't understand. And so that very simple thing I noticed right away, one of the ways we can solve that is simply let a real human being answer that, or not just let a real human being, but let a problem solver answer that ticket. This comes up all the time too. People are familiar with, I go get hosting, I get unlimited support. What that really means is it's not unlimited solutions, right? It's unlimited ability to submit tickets. And there again was a gap. And I looked at it like, well, what we're going to do is different. We're going to hire really high-end expert people, because in the case of hosting, it involves a lot of different skill sets. And that's something people that really don't realize is website development and even website hosting. You need people from the network side to the server side to the application side to actually the end user side. And that doesn't even get into sales and marketing questions and things like that. But what ends up happening is you start to ask those questions. And then if you don't have the real expertise to answer them, then it just runs in a loop. And that's what's happening right now is the businesses ask this question, but then the company really can't answer it because they don't have the right technical person involved. So we do that simply by adding just really high-end people. All of our tickets are answered within, they're serviced within a few minutes. They're answered within 10, 15 minutes. And typically we have problems solved within under an hour. If it's super complicated, maybe it goes to a few hours, but never beyond a day. And that in the marketplace is really unheard of. We have clients to come to us all the time that they're just happy that someone's talking to them. This happened just yesterday. It was like, I was telling this story to someone and they said, yeah, I've got these 3 things I've been trying to get looked at for 2 weeks. And we moved the site over in 4 hours. We answered the ticket and they were literally up and running on our service in a short period of time with all those problems fixed in a very short period. So that's the piece that we found makes the most sense.
The world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
We all have that dream trip we've been wishing we could go on, but too often life, or usually price, gets in the way. That's why Priceline is here to help you turn your dream trip into reality. With up to 60% off hotels and up to 50% off flights, you can book everything you need for your next adventure. Don't just dream about that next trip. Book it with Priceline. Download the Priceline app or visit Priceline.com and book your next trip today.
Go to your happy price, Priceline.
Interesting. And I know we'll get into, because I know a lot of your journey is about freedom and building a freedom business. For some of the technical people that are listening, so they may be asking, do the owners actually move the website onto your platform? And if not, how do you integrate with, for example, existing customer support, like for example, WordPress or for Wix or whatever hosting? How do you integrate as a third party onto their platform to solve tickets?
Yeah, so we are, a big piece of our offering is that we're doing everything soup to nuts. So in order for us to provide service, we have to move you to our platform. Now, our platform is, to say platform, it's a little tricky, right? Because we service WordPress websites. So if it's built on WordPress, we can handle it. We actually do the migration. We do the migration in under 4 hours. Most of the time, it's about an hour. If it's a really big site, it takes longer. So it's super simple. Someone signs up with us. We need the credentials to their website. We need to know where their domain is. And that's even the beginning of a good relationship, because most of the time people in the past, right, they wince as soon as they say the site needs to move. Because they've been through it before. It took forever. They don't know. I get it. It's really uncomfortable. It's like moving your house if your house was invisible, right? You're like, where did my most important things go? They don't know because they can't see it. So we really ensure that process. It's very easy for us. Our staff does it all the time. I've personally migrated a few thousand websites. And so we are the safekeepers of that. We make a copy of it. We change domain name pointing and it's done. And right away, they're really happy with the results.
Interesting. Yeah. So moving the conversation forward, one thing is talking about is you designed this company to actually help yourself. For example, you're a nomad, you can live anywhere and work from anywhere. What were the assumptions that made you rethink how you were building your business from your prior experiences?
In a lot of ways, these were the easy places, right? It's often easy to figure out what you want for me by knowing what I don't want. What I didn't want is to be tied to an office. What I didn't want was to be away from my family. My previous business was really high end. It comes down to agency life is all about the customer, right? So I was working 10, 12, 14 hours a day. Those are things as I started to design what I wanted, those became just as important as do I have a customer out there, right? So I wanted to say first, okay, I recognize this gap in the marketplace. Now, how can I build a system that answers these questions, but also gives me back personal time? And we were really successful to do that. We looked at, and this is where the human first comes into play. We really look at humans need to be in front of the customers, but we're supported by a bunch of great tools. And today, of course, AI is a big question. I'm a big fan of AI doesn't lead, it's a support system. So AI helps us diagnose issues. AI helps us to answer support tickets, not automatically, right? They help us to diagnose something. So when we get something we may not understand it, we can use those tools to help us understand it or really find what the core problem is.
Yeah, my question further down was going to ask you about AI because you talk about human first, and the whole conversation these days is AI replacing humans. The other question is because burnout was stemming from the way you thought to build your business and letting or control. What's a belief that you had to let go of to become the leader you are now?
A big one was that I had to do everything, right? I think that we start to define success, and this is a real problem, I think, today, definitely in the US, but that we define success very one-dimensionally with money and accolades, right? That's and by being busy. I love this one, right? If I'm busy, that means that I'm moving the ball forward. That means that I'm a great person. And for me, it was really looking at, I define success as I have joy in my life. And so we deliver a great service. I look at that. Our customers are happy every day. Our staff is happy every day, but I'm happy and my family's happy with my involvement.
The other question is, and I really love this idea of trying to do everything yourself. And the opposite end of that is a lot of founders, they let go, and then everything that they were trying to control gets even more out of control. So how can founders let go without losing control?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of personal investigation you've got to, as we transition from, this is, I think, one of the biggest issues, right, for founders, right? Like, I do know the way with what I need to do and the products and services. This has come up even today, right? We're working on some changes to our own website. And the key, I think, is as you transition from a founder to a leader, is you've got to evaluate what are the pieces that I need to relate to people. It becomes a teaching environment. Quite frankly, you are a teacher. I need to prepare. I need to communicate really well, because what's in here doesn't just move over to the next person unless I really communicate that. So I think it's, for us, we have a kind of a standard set of not just policies, but vital criteria and voice in the way that we talk to our customers. We have even stopgaps in place for where boundaries, as our customers begin to ask us questions outside what the agreement is, right? How to even handle that. So it's not that we just ignore it, which a lot of people do, or don't do it, but we strive to go above and beyond. But also we recognize that those boundaries are in place. For instance, I had a question today from a client that had clearly gone to ChatGPT to optimize a page, which I highly recommend everybody does, right? I want this page to perform better for generative engine optimization. I want AI engines to pick up this page. They sent us just basically the output for what ChatGPT sent them. And it clearly was not, it was a guide, but it's really meant to be a guide for someone to go write the content, right? And not to design the page, not to build the page, but we need the words, right? I need to know what, it's your company. I need to know what you want to say about this service and this product and the supporting testimonials and all the things. But it very clearly, now it looks, if you don't pay attention, if you just look at it, right, it's, oh, here's all the stuff. And I had to very carefully get back to them and tell them, look, this is great. This is right on. We would agree with this approach. And you've given us about half of what we need, but what we need are these things. And we help them figure it out though, too. It's not just, hey, this doesn't work. And so that's what it's about, is it's about helping then our staff know that part of support is not quitting, is not just saying, hands up, I can't do this. It's working with them to resolve that. And then two, they're going to learn along the way. They're going to say, oh yeah, you're right. If I needed to build this page and it just says headline should reinforce these aspects, that's not a headline, right? That's like headline should sound like this. I need you to tell me what the service is and what that headline should be.
Interesting. The next question I have for you is building from alignment instead of urgency. And what does that look like in practice?
Yeah, there again too. So previous business, everything was a reaction, right? Yeah, we had processes in place that helped control that a little bit, but we always felt like everything was a red alert. I've got this question. Oh, it's so important that I have to drop everything and do this. And then when you do that, it's whack-a-mole, right? I'm constantly jumping to the next thing. I'm not really strategically planning my day or to say my week or month. And so you're less effective. How I've moved over to alignment is really figuring out what are the core principles? How do I want to live my life? And then applying those to the day, right? If I want to live from a place of calm approach, then you need to find what works for you. For me, that looks like I've developed this style in which I want to live, which is I want to come to everything with a response instead of a reaction at its core. So what that means at its simplest level is I'm going to take a deep breath before I answer this email. I'm going to take a deep breath before I answer. It's very simple, but it's interesting how if we just take a minute, then that begins to calm our nervous system, right? That begins to open up more creativity for us to be able to answer it the right way. And so it really is born out of that sense of simply taking a step back and realizing I don't need to approach everything as if it's a fire. And I take a lot of cues. Think about paramedics. You don't see a paramedic out there who's just running around, oh my God. And these guys are presented with, or Navy SEALs. Some of the aspects I took for how to run business came directly from reading some stories from Navy SEALs. These guys are in the worst situations you could possibly imagine. And what do? Box breath, right? They breathe in for 4 and out for 4. And then they move methodically through a situation. So I looked at how can we adapt those principles into business life. And so that in general, that's slow down, make list. Don't let a list rule you. You rule the list, right? If you set your sights on, I need to complete these 10 things, but you don't get them done, then decide maybe I need to dial back to 5 things because I need to experience success at the end of my day, but you need to work through it piece by piece that way.
Yeah, we'll talk about Navy SEALs. And what the other thing you alluded to was clarity and training your nervous system and your brain to downregulate and be proactive instead of reactive. So what role does clarity play in scaling, and how do you help others find it through their operations?
Yeah, a big piece of what I teach is honestly meditation. The cool thing about meditation is it doesn't have to, I know right now a lot of people are like, oh man, not another meditation talk. I can't meditate. My brain goes crazy. So meditation for me, especially as I started, is not necessarily about sitting still and clearing your mind, right? Meditation at its core is presence, is simply being present in the moment. And you can find those. I learned this from Thich Nhat Hanh, this beautiful Vietnamese monk who passed a few years ago, beautiful man, and taught me that meditation, that there's walking meditation, driving meditation, washing the dishes meditation. One of the examples I love to use is simply walking through a door. if everyone would just take a moment, the next time you walk through a door, because we walk through thousands of doors a year, right? And we don't really think about it because we know how to do it. But instead of just briskly walking through the door, feel your hand touch the lever or the knob, right? Feel you turn that. Feel what it feels like to open it. In that, when you're present, you can't think about the bills that need to be paid, or I didn't contact that client or that customer or whatever. Just think about stepping through that threshold, taking a deep breath. And in that moment, you'll experience just a little bit of that presence. So it's that I try to introduce into workplaces, because it's that very thing, right? That it's slowing down just a little bit at a time that enables us to see the big picture.
Final question I have for you is, because you mentioned Navy SEALs, and I love that idea of the box. And you mentioned for a lot of founders, letting go of the belief that you have to do everything and letting go of control. And what's one other foundational shift that they can make to create more space for those feeling stretched thin?
I think a couple, really. I think systematize ruthlessly, I like to say. You want to look for areas, if you're repeating things over and over, so some simple things, right? With even emails, whether we're emailing, and you have to find a good balance, right? Whether you're emailing to give people information for an existing customer, or maybe it's a new customer that and these are some basic tips, right? That you're bringing that don't seek to write that email every time, right? Find a format for that, and find a good system that, whether it's just a notes field, you're saving that so that you don't go through that same process. The cool thing about that is, now I do suggest this, don't just cut and paste it and send it. Like, take a minute, breathe, and read it. Make sure that the question that was asked, you answered, because we get those all the time, right? We get those almost form emails, and yes, it's from a person, but you realize 1,800 people got the same email. You want to make sure it answers that, but it's those little kind of time savings things. And then you can expand on that when you look at the systems that you have in place for HR or for sales or for marketing. And so it's finding what systems work. And then the trick in that is, let's make sure the system doesn't wreak havoc or run everything, right? You want to make sure that when you evaluate those systems, does this solve? I get asked questions all the time, and I'm like, let's ask the question first, what are you trying to solve? Because quite often we jump into a tool because it does all these things, and then you think because it does them, you have to use them. And then quite often you get 20 hours into something and you're not even really sure why you started down that process. But it is important to look at where there are opportunities to systematize, and then prioritizing alignment. We're presented in our company quite a bit with, can you build me a website? We technically can. I've built thousands of websites. We only build a few websites a year for existing customers. And the reason is, we could probably start a whole new business for building websites. But for me, I've done that. And what we wanted Sunny HQ, it comes back to that alignment, is, why do we exist? What's our core brand promise? It's service and support. And so if we start to build a lot of websites, if we go off brand, off alignment, and we start to do this, then all of a sudden, and let's throw a number at it. Let's say that there's a few $100,000 or $1 million in receivables. That starts to look really attractive. But what's going to suffer is the core part of my business. Support's going to suffer. We're not going to be able to answer tickets as fast. And you can't marginalize that. I think you've always got to come back and say, what's in alignment with this core offering?
Yeah, I really love that. Narrow your focus and stay in your lane, your core competencies. Yeah. How can people connect with you and reach out to you? And if they actually need website hosting transfers and better customer support, how can they connect with you?
Yeah, the easiest thing, we've got a giveaway too for you to just do some work on your own. We're of course here, but go to sunnyhq.io/podcast. Just just put your email in and you'll get a free download. It's a cool little document with an optimization tool that'll help you look at your website and just ask some questions about how it's working, and you'll get to decide for yourself. And then you can easily contact me or any one of our staff on that website as well.
Excellent. Thanks so much for coming on, and I really enjoyed talking with you.
Yeah, thank you.